It's crazy to think that Mafia 3 came out almost 10 years ago. I bought it on day one after having played Mafia 2 some years prior. I really enjoyed the game, its story, characters and overall themes. Not without flaws, of course, but my experience with the game was very positive. But throughout the years, I've seen all kinds of videos, posts, Steam reviews, and I was always left confused. I knew that the game had flaws, some big, some small, but there are plenty of games packed with negatives that people enjoy. So why Mafia 3 doesn't get a pass? Mafia 3 follows the story of Lincoln Clay, an orphan from New Bordeaux, fictional location based on 1960s New Orleans. The premise isn't anything revolutionary, it is a basic revenge plot. Nothing fancy, but it's enough motivation to do, well, what you do. It's a pretty common trope, and unfortunately Mafia 3 makes the same mistake that many others make. That is, we don't spend enough time with Lincoln's family. And it's a shame because Sammy looks like a super interesting character, and we could have seen Alice and Lincoln as this duo, kind of like Franklin and Lamar in GTA 5. Even there we don't spend that much time with Lamar, but it 100% works. Everyone remembers the scenes where those two are together, but here you only have a few drives and, 3 cutscenes together? It's enough to justify the motivation and set things in motion, but not enough to make players invested. Anyways, boom boom boom, Marcano killed our family and now we gotta go and get revenge. Here we meet John Donovan. He's basically your intel guy and pretty cool dude. I'd say the best character introduced in this whole game. He's got charm, he's smart, and he's gonna help us throughout the main story. Lincoln doesn't simply want to drive to Marcano, shoot him in the head and that's that, roll credits. He wants to take over the entire city, which adds to the gameplay and the feel of progression. I mean, we all liked getting territory in San Andreas and seeing the map slowly turn green, right? Here, instead of having small zones, the map is divided in 9 big districts, plus Bayou plus Sinclair Parish, but I'll talk about the DLCs later on. Once you take over each one, you won't be the direct owner, since you spend the first 2 to 3 hours getting help from Cassandra from the Asian Gang, Vito Scaletta, protagonist of the previous game, and Thomas Burke representing the Irish Gang. Burke has a lot of backstory and is quite an interesting character. Vito has an entire game about him, so that's settled. Cassandra is meh. She's written as this mysterious lady with not even her age shown in the asset page, but to me she's kinda bland. I like way more Nikki and Roxy as the strong woman type. At least I can appreciate that Cassandra is a planned leader, someone who puts brains before heart. For sure she's more interesting than Sassy Baka over there. Anyways, these 3 idiots will have to do for now. You get a hold of a territory by taking down its boss, and you take down the boss by taking down his 2 underbosses, 1 for each racket. You take them down by generally making trouble in that part of town. You'll have very simple objectives like destroy this or kill this person. This is the main beef that people have with this game from what I've seen. You spend the vast majority of the game doing minor repetitive tasks. And that's 100% true. I don't surely claim that this is a misunderstood masterpiece of game design. I just personally think that Mafia 3 wasn't treated right, in the sense that it just became it's repetitive. Do you guys remember Mafia 2? I love Mafia 2 as much as the next guy, but that game is fucking repetitive. You have zero say in where to go and what to do. You just have to drive here, then drive there, shoot what happens, grab Playboy magazine, goon in the corner, and then drive back. And yeah, it's more of a cinematic experience, and a great one at that, but I will die on this hill. Mafia 3 has the better gameplay. Shooting is 100 times better, glory kill, the quick and snappy controls of Lincoln Clay, the way smoother cover system, weapon sound design, and the 2 weapon limit that was not present in Mafia 2. Driving gets a pass because you could say Oh well, the Mafia 2 cars were older, so they handled worse. And yeah, I would be okay with that, but I also find Mafia 3 driving way more fun overall. It's heavy, but not impossible to handle, the speed hits just right, not absurdly fast, not too slow. Anyways, once you conquer a district, you have to choose who of your 3 degenerates gets to control it. There's variety in how you give out the territories, and if you understand how the territory mechanic works, you'll keep everyone calm. But, if you want, you can ignore 1 or 2 of your allies, making them so angry they'll walk out on you. But, as Lincoln said,
second you step out that door, your name's getting added to my list, right beneath Marcano's.
And you'll have a mission pop up where you have to take them out. That's impressive for a series as rigid as Mafia. You can make every run different in both story and gameplay, because if you give more territories to one of your capos, you'll also get different bonuses. More health, favors to last longer, more throwables, and so on. To me, it sounds like they went for replayability, which Mafia 1 and 2 didn't really have. What I'm trying to say is that Mafia 3 saw all these limitations that the previous title had. The chapter structure, the lack of freedom to go wherever you want, do missions in your own way, with the guns you bought, with the vehicle you chose and customized. Again, not saying the Mafia 2 is a bad game, far from it, but I at least appreciate that they wanted to try something different, and try to modernize this franchise a bit. I guarantee you that if this game followed the same model of Mafia 1 and Mafia 2, it would have been called outdated. What do you mean there's no open world? What do you mean I lose all of my guns every 3 chapters? There is no freedom in mission, etc. Oh, and I've also heard multiple times that this game world feels empty. I just don't get it. There's always something going on, people playing an instrument, working, chatting, smoking, reading, passing the time. I don't know what kind of empty they mean, but this is anything but empty. You could argue that the bayou is a bit lifeless, but that's the whole point of that area, it's remote. Swamps where people sell guns and smuggle drugs. You shouldn't expect it to be full of life. And even there are some shops, gas stations and houses, and there's people walking around, chatting and shopping. Feels pretty alive to me. With all the diners you can enter, houses, bars, in my opinion it is more than enough to immerse yourself in the world and therefore believe it. Also, it may seem normal now, but for 2016 this was kind of cool. Some are copy and paste, sure, but there are plenty of unique interiors as well. Now, so far I've defended this game in almost every way, but now we need to talk about the DLCs, and I cannot defend these. They're just wrong on so many levels. I usually play them during the main game after recruiting the 3 capos, and play each one all in one go. Because gameplay-wise it makes the most sense. You'll unlock stuff that won't be of any use if you're already done with the story, so keep that in mind. I'll start by going through each one in the order they came out. Faster Baby is the first one and has nothing to do with Mafia. It's a story about racism, and given the context of Mafia 3, it fits pretty well. And the gameplay is just stellar. Probably the most fun you'll have with vehicles in this game. The characters introduced are believable, and Lavo even returns from the main game. After completing the main missions in Faster Baby, you get side quests that look and play really low budget. The characters move very little, and when they do, it has that Yakuza sub-story feel. The missions are very simple and very few. The main problem I have with this DLC is that as soon as you're done with the missions, it's done. That's it. There's no reason to go there anymore. Not a single of the weed missions where you have to get a new type of leaf or whatever takes place in Sinclair Parish. No like racket to take over, no new mode to wreck stuff like you did in the main missions. Nothing. Nothing. They didn't even put a race there. The story puts a lot of focus on the Nightcrawler, Roxy's car, And Sinclair Parish is pretty much designed to race or have police chases and whatnot. I mean, how hard would it have been to put 1 or 2 races there? It's such a shame that this detailed and unique open area is left unused for the rest of the game. When this first came out, I thought it would have been like a flashback chapter. I imagine it like a Vietnam War mission where Lincoln and Donovan first met each other, or simply an interesting situation involving the two in the Vietnam War scenario. Instead, we got a DLC that again has nothing to do with both Mafia, as in Italian organized crime, and Mafia 3 as in its story and main themes. It's basically a Black Ops side plot, where Lincoln and Donovan hunt down this Aldrich guy through a jungle in the Caribbean. Gameplay is okay, a bit too linear and overall not as good as the previous DLC, but still holds up. As someone who played the shit out of Black Ops 1 and 2 as a kid, it's fun to have that kind of vibe, and Donovan would perfectly fit in one of those old CODs. But after a while, you'll start to wonder, what am I doing here? Like, what interest has this for Lincoln? Wasn't he going after Marcano? You could say that canonically he does this stuff after the deal with Marcano, or he's doing a favor for John. Yeah, sure, and leaving these 3 idiots potentially turning on one another. Nah. Also, it kind of takes you out of the experience, doesn't it? Anyways, you finish things up in the jungle and you return back to New Bordeaux, welcomed by mediocre side missions, a dart gun that outside of side missions you'll never use, and last but not least, the sniper support ability that usually works pretty well and has some cool moments. But since it has the same arc as a grenade, sometimes faraway enemies are out of your reach, which kind of defeats the purpose of having a sniper support if you can only mark enemies that are pretty close to you already. And yeah, that's pretty much it. You can't ever go back to the Caribbean jungle or have like randomly generated bounties. Nope. Once you're done, you're done. Granted, the story was kind of interesting, but to me doesn't really look like it fits that much. But nothing prepares you for... Signs of the Time is the 3rd DLC and, you guessed it, has nothing to do with Mafia. Nothing to do with Mafia 3 story and themes, and nothing to do with Lincoln Clay. Let me just run you through this. We go with Father James to Sammy's for some reason, and we find weird cult people doing some kind of ritual. There we save this girl named Anna. And then, for I don't know what fucking reason, Lincoln goes full Cole Phelps mode and investigates this random ass cult. From Sammy's, through their main strongholds, and all the way to their headquarters. Why? What does Lincoln get from all of this? Also, Father James, while he shows his flaws during the main game, is not a bad person overall. Here, he just sends Lincoln to kill all of these people like, hell yeah, butcher them now, show no mercy. I don't know, I found it kind of funny, but seriously, why is Lincoln so invested in this Anna girl? Gameplay-wise, I appreciate that they tried something different with the LA Noire style of investigation, but I don't really see this as Lincoln Clay's thing. The only good thing that came out from this DLC are the throwing knives that are absurdly OP, they're silent, precise, have no cooldown and always lethal, and those melee type of enemies that sometimes make for good scares. But apart from that, this plays like absolute trash. The sections with the UV torch are boring and way too long, not because my brain melted from too many Instagram reels, but because there's nothing interesting about this whole situation. We're investigating these places that just won't stop transforming into dream sequence after dream sequence. For what? The only thing we find is more clues that just lead to more useless places. If this DLC was a way to learn more about Lincoln's past, his fears, his view on life, then absolutely. Even if the premise is weak, at least we would get something out of it, something deeper than here is a character that now you care about, here is that character suffering or dying, now go and get revenge. Like, can we stop with this revenge thing? I feel like it happened already way too much. Is Lincoln Clay simply a Terminator that activates when he hears the word revenge? Don't answer that. In case you were curious, yes, Lincoln kills the creepy lady, comes back to Father James, and Anna is buried right next to Sammy and Alice, which in my opinion is a bit out of character, but that's how the main story ends. On the bright side, the side quests of Sign of the Times are the best of all the 3 DLCs. After picking up Aunt Lily, you can start renovating Sammy's bar, and I'll be honest, looks like an afterthought. A good one at that, but I think it is implied at the end of the game that Sammy's never reopened, and after a while it just became a parking lot. So that's a bit unclear. I get why they came up with this idea though. At the end of Sinclair Parrish's story, they give you the Weed Farm, which is essentially the only way of making money past the endgame. Money that you don't really need, because if you're at the endgame you have nothing more to do. Even if you still have some guns left to buy, they're not that expensive to get. So it generally is a good idea to have some goal for the endgame, since the base story doesn't really give you any incentive to keep playing. After you upgrade everything in the bar, you get another Yakuza sub-story cutscene. I mean, I get budget restraints and all, but this is a pretty important moment. You had motion capture for the bullshit dream sequences, Anna's useless yapping, but probably one of the most important moments in Lincoln's story gets... this? I mean, this was chronologically the last event of the game, depending on which ending you consider canon, but I'll get to them in a minute. So yeah, this was the last of the 3 DLCs. If you ask me, I would have made Stones Unturned be a Vietnam War flashback, thus happening before the main story. Faster Baby happening during the main story, which is fine, and scrap Signs of the Times completely and either have another territory to take over, again during the main game, or have a short story happen after killing Marcano but before the final decision, so you don't have a canon ending. That wraps up my yapping of the DLCs. Now, we still have a city to take over, and those 3 are probably dying of boredom. I'll just quickly go through them in order that I usually play, and put them on a tier list because why not. Barclay Mills is run by Enzo Conti, old school kind of guy. He operates in weapons and waste removal. Both rackets are solid with fun strongholds. And the set piece at the mine is great as long as you have good long range weapons. In the end, Enzo turns out to be a chill dude and lets you have Barclay. S tier. Downtown is run by Tony DeRazio, creepy bald dude with a talent for numbers. He operates in construction and blackmail. Not my favorite district, I'll be honest. Both rackets have awkwardly placed objectives and have a tendency to have a lot and smaller. Especially blackmail is the worst racket in the game in my opinion. It takes forever to bring down, also its stronghold, the bathhouse, not only doesn't fit but it's also a pain to take over. The construction site isn't the best either, but I appreciated the tower coming down and changing the map a second time around. The Royal Hotel set piece is very cool but badly written. I know it's a game and all, but no way Lincoln gets out of there alive. C tier. Thick Fall Harbor is run by Frank Pagani. Kind of, he's in Cuba at the moment. Anyways, he operates in stolen cars and contraband. Oh my god, the stolen cars racket is fun. You get access to cool cars and you also get to blow them up. Contraband is also pretty cool. Especially I like the side missions that use this small island. In between your adventures in the port of New Bordeaux, you'll have to infiltrate a boat to put a tracker on his car, so when he arrives from Cuba, you'll know where he is. Because this man is in love with his car. You'll either get a high-octane chase or the most anticlimactic thing ever. A tier. French Ward is run by Uncle Lou, who is the public face of the Marcanos. He operates in the LSD and adult videos. Same problem as Downtown, small, awkwardly placed objectives. The district itself is gorgeous, Bit of a shame that it didn't get used to its fullest potential. LSD Stronghold is solid, but the Sex Racket House is trash. Probably the worst stronghold in the game. The ferryboat set piece is very cool visually, it plays well and doesn't overstay its welcome. B tier. South Downs is run by Tommy Marcano. His rackets are pretty low-key, black market and gambling. Missions are good and well placed, both strongholds play very well, though the black market warehouse looks a bit uninspired. The stadium set piece is very good in terms of gameplay, but it doesn't make any sense unless Lincoln was trying to off himself. A tier. Frisco Fields is run by Olivia Marcano. She was the wife of the late Lucio Marcano, which would have been more interesting than her for sure. Anyways, I'd say she only has the PCP racket and she lets the Southern Union do their things. The missions are perfectly placed, especially the Southern Union hits. Grab a quick car and do them all in one go. Frisco has probably the best strongholds. Both the supermarket and lab are great in both stealth and loud. Taking out Remy Duval is a pretty good mission, no problem with that, but I swear the Yacht Club mission brings down this area a tier for me. It's a dumb plan like the cage fight in South Downs, but at least that plan fails and sets up an interesting situation. Here it actually works. A tier. Now that the town is ours, there's only one thing left to do: avenge Sammy and Alice. The casino shootout is fitting for a finale. This area is very big and stunningly decorated, but still under construction. You first get a hold of Jordi and you game end him, then you take the elevator and see the main man, Sal Marcano himself. And I've gotta say, visually this scene is beautiful. The two of them having a drink and discussing recurring nightmares they had, Sal saying, "This won't be the last time we see each other," and Lincoln saying, "I know." Here I hesitated to kill him and he did it for me. So all of that work and Lincoln wasn't even the one personally take care of him. After that disappointment, Leo Galante from Mafia II makes an appearance and tells Lincoln that if he wants to take over, he needs to pay the commission 20% of his income, same as Sal did, practically becoming as ruthless and corrupt as him, or just walk away and disappear, leave all of this behind. There's also a third ending, but it's so stupid I'll need my time with it. The first ending, I personally think it's the canon ending and it makes the most sense for Lincoln Clay, is walk away. He never was a money-driven person. During the story, to me, there was no indication of Lincoln's growing greed or him wanting to expand. He completed his mission and that's enough for him. In Faster Baby, Laveau has a line that is really important and until the very end, no one else tells him.
Sooner or later, you're gonna have to live your life again. Don't forget that.
And to me, the walkaway ending represents exactly that. Since you leave town, never to be seen again, the underboss with the highest earnings will take over your place to become the big boss. Cassandra taking over sounds a little exaggerated. Basically the entire world was out to get her, but she had more swag than everyone else and after magically causing a hurricane, she just disappears. With Burke takeover, he turns New Bordeaux into a moonshine city and just dies one day while doing a Rambo impression drunk. I guess it fits him pretty well. Vito is the only stable of the three. Basically, he finishes up the casino, opens a few more, and generally makes the city not destroy itself. The second ending, Rule Together, is kind of a middle way. Lincoln replaced Sal Marcano, becoming like him or even greedier since it looks like he expands all around the southern United States, and by the public is seen as Uncle Lou was before. He becomes a benevolent investor in the eyes of the public, he reopens the fun fair, renovates schools, but away from the spotlights, he still ruthlessly runs a criminal empire. This is 100% a possibility, but as I said, I think Lincoln had to take over the city to complete his mission, and then try to live a life like he initially planned when returning from Vietnam. Now, the third ending, I personally think that they were joking around at lunch like, yeah, how about the priest becomes a terrorist? And someone overheard them and did it for real. I know Father James was in World War II and all, but could this be any more out of character? Make it the weird FBI guy instead. I don't know, make a cutscene of Emmanuel, Alma and Nikki killing Lincoln because he can't be trusted. Anything rather than Father James being like, up the rah. I'm not against the core idea of it. I feel like the protagonist's death would fit the story pretty well, but not like this. This feels really, really random. If they made a scene with the three lieutenants, like I said, that would have carried some weight, but Father James randomly deciding that, yeah, now was the time to kill Lincoln, I think that most people just burst out laughing. In conclusion, this game, despite its many flaws, shows that it was done with passion. Everything is loyal to the time period, no flying bikes, no sci-fi stuff. There's the radios with a superb playlist of 60s masterpieces, and the advertisements that are funny but also feel authentic for the time period.
America's favorite carry-out restaurant since 1932.
Hex is the place to stuff that hungry face. Grab your keys, grab your car, drive to Hex, drive to Hex, Burger Bar.
Almost every time you conquer a racket, you get a clip from 3 different video archives: Donovan's trial, Father James' interview, and the obsessed Jonathan Maguire documentary. Despite this last one giving me the creeps, they're all super interesting. There's a shit ton of backstory written in the asset and kill list menus. There's a journal that updates throughout the whole game, and it's nothing crazy, just a recap of every major thing you did, but I found it neat that even when you buy new weapons or unlock a car, Lincoln acknowledges that, and you also get a little bit of backstory, such as Enzo Conti liked off-roading of all things, and Alice's dream car was a Ford Mustang. There are hundreds of notes you can find all around while playing, or even the small detail that the cars of the 3 bosses start pretty normal. Of course they don't pull up in bicycles, but nothing fancy, and at the last sit-down they have sports and luxury cars. If this game was made only to milk a well-known IP, I feel like they wouldn't have put this much detail and care into these small things. Hangar 13 is not that big of a studio, and Mafia 3 was their first ever title. With what they had, the pressure of continuing a beloved franchise, and the relatively small time they had to do it in, I think this game at least deserves some respect. Not necessarily love or praise, but at least respect. Thank you for watching.